Hello everyone. So today our target is to create that particular animation. I call it bubbles. So in fact that particular bubbles is nothing else as the set of 100 randomly generated circles what we designed last class. So here if you will see the big circle, so this is the partially green and red. That's exactly what we tried before. The difference is in the animation itself, because before our circle growing and back, so in that particular case, so there are many circles with the different size, different diameter, so with the different speed. So, and the effect of that animation looks like a bubbles, which is moving up, maybe like soda cup or something similar to that. So I did not change the colors for that circle. That's what you can do by yourself. Okay, so the idea of this application is technically clear up to now because we already know how to generate circles with the different colors. And another component is the set of many objects what we need to design in the screen. This is the concept of clones. So technically all of those circles, they are the same. So what is the difference is the diameter of the circle. But again, we discussed it last class. So and now we know how to generate that particular different circles. Okay, so let's start from making a new project. So I will call it bubbles video. So and the target for today is to make that particular application. So as long as the main reference will be our previous project, so where we discussed the growing circle and create that video grow circle video. So open that project. So and technically now I need to copy the all materials, the all files here. So the later we will start discussing how to create different circles with the different animation properties. Okay, so here one by one, let's copy the all files to our new project. Okay, so here it's one by one. Add those files, all data from our classes. And there are okay, and the next one, let's call it bubbles. Class the class bubbles. So and for that again I will copy the component. So this is our grow circle project. So and everything what is inside of that project I will copy. Paste here. So here there are a lot of like stuff what is presented but commented. So but in our case we will use that particular data later. Okay, so now let's make this particular code working. See the bubbles now is okay, no problem. The problem is the renderer. So here we must call the class bubble. That's why just changing that name. will be enough to start. Okay. So the next Go renderer. So here in the renderer, I will just need to add bubbles. Add bubbles. Okay, done. No errors. So now if I will launch this code, so we will see the animation from our previous project because we just copied the old files from our previous project. Okay, so this is our circle. Okay, so the next what we will need to do is to understand how does this application like works, what we discussed the last class. Uh, the more important part here is that we are displaying that particular circle layers by layers. And in our new application, that circle size must be smaller. So the first what is important here is to fix how many layers we will need in order to draw the different circles. So for that, what we need to do, first of all, reject this animation. So I don't need that animation anymore. So in order to do that, so here in our application, so where is that part? This part. Related to the updating the layers. So one by one, we will grow the layers. And finally, that will be either growing or not. So we don't need this part. So because the sequence, we just need to fix the sequence. Okay, let's say 7, 3, 2, 5, 6, and so on. So that var layers must be generated randomly. Okay, so that var layers is presented here. So in one by one, we will need to display that particular data. Okay, see what is here. This is the loop. So where we will display multiple objects. Again, that was the project related to the clones. So in our case, so this is the issue. So here, I must do this. So I supposed to display the many different objects, isn't it? Okay. Here, display layers one by one. Display bubbles one by one. So and here, this 4 will tell us how many objects do I want to display. Let's make here it's object ID. So instead of object ID, let's call it bubble ID. As long as we are changing the app, let's change it as well. So and here will be the bubble number. So in that number we will set up in our application. Okay, so here let's call it like bubble setup. Okay, and the first will be the integer bubble. Well, let's say 50, so the later we can change that number. So technically better to start from 2. Yeah, okay, now it works. So we set up number of bubbles. Yeah, let's start from 50. Later we will change. Okay, so what is the next? So as long as I do have 50 bubbles, so I need to have a few components. So assume this is our screen. So this is our screen. So here is our, so the first of all, like let's discuss how it will looks like. In the beginning, I want to make two circles like this. So, and so that will be our axis, x and y. So this is x, this is x, this is y. So right here we can set up our circles. Okay, let's say here will be the 0.1, 0. So here minus 0.2, 0. So for those circles, so we will need to define radius. So radius can be any number, but in respect of our application, so here instead of radius, I supposed to place how many layers I will present. So here, layers, circle 1, and let's say the number of layers will be 1. So here the layers, circle 2, and let's say layer circle 2, and let's say 10. So technically what will happen, so this one, so that will be our circle created only from triangles, but that particular circle, so that will be many circles. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so here will be many circles like this. So in the each, so will be our layer. So and the number of that layers will be 10. So here will be, so this is the, actually we start from 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can continue that particular layers. So in that number here will identify how many layers I want to present for my application. So based on that concept, so here we can identify the way how to handle that particular object. So the first, the number of layers. So the number of layers, this is the integer. We can call it like bubbles. Bubbles layers. Okay, so in here we need to make an array. So new integer. And as long as I already identify the number of bubbles, so here I will present it. Okay, so that will be the number of layers. So this is like bubble radius. So the next what we will need to know about our circles, this is the coordinate. So the coordinate, this is the float. So let's call it the bubble centers. So and in our application, like everywhere, so the center contains two coordinates, x and y. So that's why I will create the two-dimensional array. So here the new float. So here will be 2 and bubbles number. Okay, so here we will create the array the bubble center. So technically here I can see. So this is the bubble layers. So that will be the size will be like 2 over 50. So in here that one will be x, that one will be y. So and the data what I will place here. So we can read one by one. So the same for the stop. So this is the bubble center. So the bubble layers. So that will be one-dimensional array. So 1 over 50. And here I will place that numbers. Okay, assume that the first one is 1, 10, and let's say 2. Okay, so the bubble centers, bubble layers, and we need one more. As long as our circles must fly, must move. So here, let's also set up bubble speed. Bubble speed. New float. Bubble numbers. Okay, so done. So now we will have like 3 arrays, but so there are a few things what we also need to consider. The first of all, like what will be the minimum size and maximum size of our circle? So that's why like let's make integer variable and call it like bubble layer minimum. So let's say the above like minimum layer will be 1. So that will be our smallest radius. So the maximum radius, yeah, so that will identify the difference in between first circle and second circle. Let's say 20. So that will be maximum radius. So the later we can control and change that particular numbers. So now for the centers, so what will be the limits for the centers? So in our application, so I supposed to identify in what range I can generate my bubbles. So, and here I supposed to set up the size of the screen. Okay, so here I can call it like integer center. Let's call it bubble center. Bubble center. Minimum. So we are here. Let's say -1. So and stop, not integer float. And maximum. So the maximum must be here. So, and this is 1. So one more thing, so what we need to do is for the speed. So the speed also can be minimum and maximum. So like bubble speed. So the speed cannot be 0, so that's why let's set up something like this. Minimum and maximum. Maximum. I want to make the circle speed like 10 times faster. So that's why I will remove 1, 0. So now each circle will have size. So the center will be fixed. And we will also set up the speed for our centers. Okay, so just keep in mind this particular information. So now we need to set up. So the setup we will process in our class bubble. So see here we set up all of our like colors. So here we set up the vertices what we will use, and only after that we will draw our object. So right here, so we will need to set up so the our bubbles. Okay, so here we can select create. So here we set up bubbles. So here create bubbles. So I do have how many? Like 50 bubbles. So that's why we need a loop. So integer I from 0 I less than bubble number I plus plus. So here we will call all of our circles one by one. Okay, so then first what I will need to do is to set up so the bubbles layer. So let's set up them all 0. So the first what I want to do is to display the 2 circles. So that's why the all data what I will set up will all 0, and after that we can create just 2 bubbles. So as long as those particular data I will use in my code, so that's why, yeah, so we will just make it, and after that modify it. So okay, all bubbles layers, so here will be all zeros. So I just don't want too many circles. So in order to start, I will just create 2 circles. So but in the beginning, I supposed to set up all values as 0. So that's why our bubbles layers is 0. So our bubble centers 0. So remember, this is our x, this is our y. So and as default, all points will be here in the 0, 0 component. But again, doesn't matter right now. Speed for the bubbles. Okay. Let's make it 0 as well. Okay, done. And I don't need anything else. So we set up layers, centers, speed. Okay, and now let's create two circles, two bubbles. So how will it work? What I will recommend us to do is to make one more array. So Boolean array. Let's call it like Boolean array. It has name bubble status, and that will be the new Boolean bubble numbers. Okay, so here true, bubble is active. False, opposite. Inactive. So and so on. So and means that the bubble status as default I will make as false. So why do I need that particular status? Because later I will need to call my circles one by one, and I need to know, do I need to display that circles or not? So the reason why, because I want to just first create the two bubbles. So that's why for the first two circles with the index 0, so I will set up true. And for the second one, I will set up true. So those bubble status in the position 0 and position 1 will enable two circles like m on 50, what I must have according to our application setup. So, and for each circle now I will need to set up like how many layers, like the layers we already identify for the first circle. Let's say this is 1. So this is our second circle. So in here the number is 10. So the second circle has the index 1. So in here we will set up 10. So the next what I will need to do is the bubble centers. As long as I do have two circles, so it will be two centers, 0, 0. This is x. So the x is 0, 1, f. So now I do have two of them. Okay, so here, so this is our circle bubble. So the bubble 0, x. So this is the bubble 0, y. So y for the bubble 0 is 0. This is y. So and here I supposed to so that one link us to the different bubbles. Okay, so here that's why that one will be the bubble 1 x. So that 0 means x. So So that the second coordinate will be our circle ID. So and here, so for the bubble one, we will set up y. Okay, so the x for the second bubble will be minus 0.2. Y is 0. Okay, so this is the bubble center speed. As okay, let's make our circles fixed, like unmoved in the beginning. So that's why the speed will become 0. So status, we already set up the status. Okay, so the rest I will not change. So remember, the number of layers will identify how big is our circle. At the same time, remember, for each layer we identify a different color. So like that's why the circles, so the small circles are green. So the big circle is the red and green, and something in between has the different appearance. But again, that will be just up to the how many layers we will set up for the each of our circle. Okay, so this part is done. So the next what will happen here, we will need to go to the function draw. So because right here, see, I will draw my bubbles. So the bubble ID changed from 0 until 50. So here I can add, so this is our bubble. So the bubble ID, and we'll finish in 49. So together the 50 bubbles. Okay, but now the some bubbles are not active. So that's why let's check the status of the bubble. So the bubble status. So if the bubble status in the, so the bubble ID, so if it is true, so we are doing, so we will process display. So we are going to display that particular bubbles. So here we will have to control the layers and display our circle. So I am not going to change this part because this is what we designed last class. So, but what will be the important to change here? See, the number of layers for circle 1 and circle 2 is not the same. So that var layers, what we define here, is not valid anymore. So instead, I will have to use the bubble layers. Remember, the bubble layers here will contains 1, 10, and all others. So the bubble layers in the bubble ID. So I will read this one first, 10 second, and so on, and circulate. So okay, so done. So, and the next what we will need to do is to set up transformation. Okay, see, what is happening in this application? So each circle now is moving. So we already know how to implement the movement. So for the movement, we will need to play with the translation. So translation, this is what we discussed in our previous lectures related to the animation. So for that, I even don't need to copy anything because see right here, that part is just commented here. So for each layer, so here, like I supposed to move bubbles based on bubbles centers. So in order to do that kind of movement, so I need to like set up that particular numbers. Okay, so now I need those kind of the translation matrices, actually, where we can get it from the GL renderer. So here we already processed the projection view, so I will just copy one of that. Come back to our class bubble. So and instead of the MVP matrix, so I supposed to call that M translation matrix. So let me one by one. So that is done. So the next what I will need to do is to process the translation. So and this is our old code. So and now instead of the object center, so we do have a bubble. This bubble centers, two-dimensional array. So the bubble centers. So here it's supposed to be 0 because this is x, and here instead of second coordinate will be our bubble ID. Same here, so that will be our bubble centers. So here 1, this is the x, and here is the bubble ID. So this is our x coordinate, this is our y coordinate. X, y, variable of time. So we set up x, set up y, place it here. So and next what we will need to do, okay, so here where is the multiplication, so that's why. So we will need to implement that particular multiplication. So and now MVP matrix we already have. See, this is the matrix what we are receiving from the renderer. So M translation matrix that will be based on the centers what we are going to play here. And I need one extra matrix which is the result of translation and MVP. So we will come back here and create one extra matrix. Here, let's change the name. So now I do have two matrices to initiate my translation. So right now will be no any animation because the speed is 0. So, but now I will need to enable that particular modification. Again, in our source code, we do have that particular command, so which will enable our modification. I am just placing that matrix here. So, and result of the translation, where we move our centers left and right, depends on the circle 1 or 2. So we will rearrange our circles in the screen. Okay, now let's check what we have. So again, here for each circle, so we set up. Yeah, this is our result. This is 0, 1. This is minus 0.2. So here is 1 layer. So here is 20 layers. So if we will come back to our application, so what we can see, the big circle is even slightly smaller than 10, and it's supposed to have that particular like red components. So right now, yeah, they looks different. So how to fix it? For example, I don't want that big circle, so I want to make it smaller, and at the same time, I want to see some colors inside. Actually, here we do have a setup for our circle. And remember, like we just copied the code from our previous application, so that's why that particular setup was done for our previous circle. Actually, the key component here, this is maximum layers. So in order to see the complete circle, so I supposed to place that 60 here, and our circle will become red. So now if I will change it, let's say to 20, so what will happen? Okay, see, now it start being red. So if I will change it to 10, remember, so here we display 10 layers. So now it's getting red. So I will recommend to move back to 20, but in order to specify the radius, so here we can make it a little bit updated. So like instead of 0.5, let's make 0.7. That will just make our circle bigger. Okay, so here the point is that the maximum number of layers is 20, but yeah, so now it is small. So because in our setup, so here I set up 10. So what will be better to do is to use that particular minimum maximum layers. Like let's say that will be the minimum layers, that will be the maximum layers. So in our screen we can see both circles, big and small. Okay, so that will be our big circle, this is our small circle. And I still not satisfied with the big one, I want to make it smaller. So and here I can just set up smaller radius. See, this is like R circle 1, this is the center, the size of our first initial circle. So this dr, this is the some kind of difference in between layers. See here, I do have layers. So this is a circle with the radius 0, 0, 1. Okay, so after that I will make another circle. So and that radius will be 0, 0, 1 plus the radius. So if I will make another layer, so that one will be 0, 0, 1 plus 2 the radius, and so on. So that's why if I will make that number smaller, so finally I can reduce the size of my circle. So technically that should be 2 times smaller, and I think, yeah, maybe too small. Okay, that will be enough. So let's keep that particular settings. This is the smallest circle, this is the biggest circle. Done. So what will be the next step? So the next step is to try, is the way to trying to make a different animation path. So we use the translation, but now the translation is static because we are not modifying the coordinates. So the layers I will not change at all because that will be just a fixed number. But what will be not fixed here is our centers. Okay, so here we can call it like animation path. Animation path. So now each circle I will need to change. So how can I change? I will just need to change our y component. So the x component, okay, again, if we will come back here, all of our circles, they are moving up. So it means that x is not changing. We are changing only y. Okay, so here I can say, okay, increase y coordinate. So how can I increase the y coordinate? So here, this is our bubble. So this is x, isn't it? So, but I don't need to modify x. So this is y, isn't it? Okay, now that particular y component, so I will need to update, but update what? Using the speed. See here, all of my circle has the different speed. Means that the number what I will place here must be unique for the each circle. So in our code, we already create array speed. So we do have bubble speed array. So and see as default that bubble speed is 0. Okay, so let's set up the speed. So for the first circle, the speed will be what I will do. Again, I do have minimum speed, maximum speed. So as default, I will place those numbers. Here will be speed for bubble 1. Okay, bubble 0, 0. So that will be the speed for the bubble 1. So here I'm supposed to place 1. And I want to see the difference between maximum speed and minimum speed. So the first small circle, so we'll experience the small speed, the minimum speed. The second circle will experience the maximum speed. Okay, so and now that bubble speed we will need to implement in our coding. So see here, so the center of our circles will be updated based on the speed. So here I will just need to add bubble ID. Okay, I forgot semicolon. Okay, no mistakes. Let's run. Okay, and this is our situation. Okay, so this part is done. So now our circle is start moving. Okay, disappear. Okay, so once our circles disappear, so now we need to do something, isn't it? So here for each circle we will need to consider so the time when our circle meet some limits in the top part of our screen. Okay, so here limit, let's call it like limits. So here the each center. So I will need to check. So if our center became bigger than, let's say, 1, okay, so right, assume that here this is 1f. So if my circle so reach that part, so I supposed to do what? Move it here. So that's again, so that particular manipulation, so we did before. So instead, when we reach the border, usually what we did, so we just change dx, and our circles start moving back. So, but in this situation, so that's better to just move our circle in the initial position. So in that position is minus 0 dot f, isn't it? So if here is 1, f, so here will be minus 1f. So, and if something is going wrong, so we can always change. Now we can run and see how does it look like. Okay, our circle come here and appear here. So what I will recommend you to do instead of this one, let's make 1.2. So that will make the effect a little bit better. Actually, the problem with this small circle, so that will just appear like somewhere here. So, but the better to make to build our circles somewhere outside of the screen. See that circles meeting up here. It's appear here. So that's minus 1, 2 will solve that issue. Okay, well, we can keep 1, doesn't really matter. Okay, so what is another important part here? If I will again come back to our original application, so here, every time when my circle reach that path, so the circle will not appear in the same location. So the location, the x coordinate of my bubble will be generated randomly. Okay, so that will be our first target. Okay, so here generate x randomly. So the x okay, so here we will say move bubble at the starting point in the bottom part of the screen. So we want to make our circle move back right here. So if I want to generate x randomly, so here that's supposed to be 0. Okay, now, and here will be the issue, how to generate that particular x. See, my x should be from here to here. So we already create that particular limits as the center minimum. Here is the center maximum. But now that particular center maximum and minimum must be identified randomly. So from minimum to maximum. In order to do that properly, so I supposed to do this. Center minimum plus. So here I supposed to generate some random number, multiply. So bubble center minimum maximum minus bubble center minimum. Okay, so and here the random number must be from 0 until 1. So floating number from 0 until 1. Okay, so what is happening? So bubble like center, bubble center minimum. Where is it? See, from -1 until 1. Okay, so this is number -1. Okay, so here is will be the random number. Let's say 25. So maximum is 1f. So that one is the minus f. So what will happen? So that one is 2, isn't it? So here I will have to like do those 0.25 multiply 2. So which is 0.5. Okay, so if I will subtract so here will be like -1 0 plus, so and the answer will be what? So -1 minus 0.5 minus 0.5. So minus 0.5 is somewhere here. So by using that construction, I can always get my bubble center in between maximum and minimum. Okay, I just need to set up my random number. That should be float. Random number. Okay, so in here I will need to generate the random numbers, what I don't have, so that's why I go back to the beginning. So here final random, my random, new random. So in that my random I will use to generate my random number. Again, we use it many times. Okay, so here will be my random. Next, okay, and here I need to use the next float. Next float will give us the number from 0 to 1. So that one is from 0 till 1. So including 0.25. Okay, so now let's try how does it look. So now the center of my circle so will be randomly changed. Check it back. Okay, so here just in order to make sure that everything is going well, I will modify those centers 0.5. It looks like the application generates the circle out of the screen. Okay, so it is here 0 here. So now the range will be limited. So the speed for that particular circle is always the same. 5, 6. Let's make 7. Okay, so this part is done. So, and the next what we can set up right here is the different speed. So see here, that is like moving. Here I can say like move bubble left, right. So I can move my bubble like appear anywhere based on the x coordinate. So, and here we can also generate the random speed. Change bubble speed randomly. So for that, we do have a bubble speed. So the bubble speed, and I can do exactly the same. So here, so bubble speed minimum plus, okay, so here I'm supposed to place my random number, but instead I will just call function my random. Okay, so and here will be the bubble speed maximum minus bubble speed minimum. So that will change the bubble speed. So every time when the new circle will appear in my application, so it will have a different speed. See, now it's getting slower. Slightly faster. Very slow. Okay, now the first one started going much faster. Okay, so this part is done. So now we can change bubble size randomly. So see, how can we identify the bubble size? So the bubble size will be nothing else as the number of layers. So that bubble layers, what we do have here, we can change. So if that will be a different number, so we again can set up so the different bubble size. So and in our application, so we already have like layer minimum, layer maximum. That will identify so that part. Okay, so here will be the bubble layer maximum minus bubble layer minimum. Okay, so the problem here is that bubble layers is the integer number. So, but this is the float number. Okay, so what we can do, make the brackets here. So that will calculate that number as the float number. So that will not be integer, and so here I will convert it into the integer. So finally, that will be different circles, what we can generate right here. Okay, and now let's try. So now those two circles will change the size. See, now it's getting smaller. It is changing size, changing speed, and changing the location. And so on. Okay, now there are two small circles. Okay, so is the idea clear what to do? So in the last step, what we need to process right here is to make many circles. So in fact, we already have everything to process such kind of things. So here, when we set up our circles, so now instead of making the all zeros, so I will set up some numbers. So those particular parts we don't need because we will have to create many different circles. Okay, and I will just copy. Okay, so here instead of the bubble ID, I will just need to place I. Okay, X, I will modify X. So this is X. So that's why this line I will need to delete. So the layers I already identify as the random numbers, so that's why I will delete. So Y component, so the Y component, you see in the screen, in the beginning I generate those numbers here in the zero. So now I need to generate it out of the screen. So that should be -1. So I want to make my circles appear in the bottom side. Okay, let's skip it 0. So the later we can change. But like the bubble speed I already set up here. And now the all circles we built, like in that loop, the all 50 circles. So we already create. So and now like we can set up them. And now let's see what will happen. So now all 50 circles will be generated randomly. Okay, so and we have that particular situation. So they started from middle of the screen. Again. So if you're talking about the bubbles, they should not start it from the middle of the screen. That's why I recommend to make it like -1. So -1 is somewhere here. So maybe better to do it -2. Because in that case will be the effect that they are going like from the screen. See now that effect is much better. So here the different circles moving with the different speed, a different location, and the circle size are also different. So now the three parameters of our circles we are changing. But here the important part, this is same circle. We are not changing the circle as well. So we're just using some kind of pretty smart mechanism to generate and handle a different object in OpenGL. Okay, so and maybe the last action what we can do here, let's set up 100 circles. So I cannot make like too many circles in my application because this is the emulator. Emulator has definitely limitation compared to the real device. So actually, like complex computer graphics, better to try with the real mobile phone, because the mobile phone is designed to play with that particular graphics. Okay, and what is another drawback here? I think the border upper line must be a little bit bigger. Okay, so come to our source code. So here instead of 1, minus 2, 1.2. So our circles will disappear somewhere out of the screen because here there is some kind of artifact. Run it now. Okay, and I think, yeah, that's all for today's discussion. Just try to make that particular application. So again, today we did not design anything new. So we just used the concept of the programs, what we designed before, and just combine them together to make some new effects using the OpenGL. So that's all for today. Good luck.